All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. This is going to be a great event, and we're lucky to have Jason here. We're talking about peptides and weight loss after 40, which I'm going to be 56 next month, so I'm definitely interested in this. A smarter, safer approach. Jason is he's the youngest of eight. Wow. A lot of siblings there. More than the Brady Bunch. And he's been into competitive bodybuilding, personal training, so his whole life has basically been around health and fitness. And that led to the creation of Body Image, a health, fat loss, and longevity practice built on sustainable systems, not quick fixes. Fat loss is the entry point, not the goal. And his work extends into the human optimization project, and that's focused on preserving strength, metabolic health, cognition, and independence so the body can support a long, capable life. Jason, thank you for being here. It's up on to you.
All right, thanks for having me, Dan. Okay, so let's get started. Uh, right. Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here. Short intro. I'm Jason Nelson. Tonight is called Weight Loss is the entry point, another destination. If you're over 40 and fat loss feels harder than it should be, you're not broken. Most people are just using outdated methods that don't match their biology anymore. Tonight, I'm going to give you a clearer framework so weight loss becomes the beginning of better energy, strength, and longevity. I'm going to give you a short bio. These are my sons. This is Jaden on the left. He's a sophomore in college. And this is Jackson. He's 3.5. He believes he's 4. So he's 4, right? Um, I'm a dad first. That's why you see my boys here. I've been coaching since 2006. My work is focused on adults over 40, fat loss, strength, and metabolic health. I am here as a guide and not an expert. I developed frameworks and I work with real people that live in the real world. And what I'm going to share with you are the real applications of the stuff that we do. We're going to talk about fat loss, why it's hard over 40. And yes, we're going to speak about peptides as tools, not as magic bullets. One saying that I take with me all the time is I believe your best years are ahead. Most people come to me with this glory story of what they could have done in their 20s and their 30s. But as it passed, what we have is right now. Build the foundation right now and set the stage for a healthier, better tomorrow. Tonight's agenda, here's what I would like you to walk away with. So please ensure you have some pen and a piece of paper and be ready to ask me questions at the end, right? So we can get into a better discussion. Why fat loss over 40 changes, the importance of metabolic health, strength, and muscle when it comes to longevity, where peptides can support and what they can't, and a simple longevity framework, just 4 things. Then we'll do, as I said earlier, a Q&A. I can't imagine how many times members, leads, clients come to me and say the exact same thing. They're, they're feeling tired. They wake up exhausted. They go to bed exhausted. They can't seem to lose the weight. They don't feel like themselves anymore. And then they go to their doctors and they feel they're dismissed. They feel like they get dismissed. The doctor's like, well, I run your labs and your numbers are fine. But they want to know why they feel this way. No definitive answer. I want to share with you a short video that really depicts um, the progressions as you take care of your body or the regressions if you don't. It's about 15 seconds. I think this really paints a picture of poor or good self-care. All right. And ladies, I'm not targeting any gender specifically, okay? Now, to the left of my screen, this is my awesome AI avatar that lost 30 pounds, okay? Now, to the right, it's the same picture, but what's different? There's a frame around the picture. Now, one might say that a frame protects the picture or the artwork. That is true. One might say that the frame gives the picture a finished look, and that is also true. But what I say, the frame teaches the eyes, tells the eyes where to focus, and the eye tells the brain that what's in the middle of this frame is important. So what the frame does, the frame creates the focus. And I would say, I submit to you today that put aside poor sleep, a poor diet, inactivity, the things that we know what contributes to weight gain. I believe the way we frame fat loss needs to change. It's not the end point. It's the start of your journey. I mean, think about the 30-year-old mom who dies from cancer and leaves a 4-year-old daughter, or an ex-bodybuilder powerlifter who breaks a hip, falls, and dies shortly after, or the 50-year-old mom who is a size 0, but she's pre-diabetic, or the once brilliant woman, mom, who became a grandmother and now she's battling Alzheimer's. Guys, those examples are not random. Those are my family members, and none of them were overweight. But metabolic health is important to longevity. Now, what happens when fat loss is the end goal? Most people end up settling for the proxies, right? They don't hit the goal, so they're like, well, I eat right, I go to the gym, I exercise, I get my steps in, but they're still not where they want to be. And I submit to you that if we reframe the position that fat loss has on our journey, this will change. So fat loss opens the door to metabolic health. And this leads into the longevity continuum. And this is how we put together the longevity continuum. In the first phase, there's metabolic health. Now, what is metabolic health, right? Simply, it's your numbers, but it's more than just having good numbers, meaning H1AC, glucose, waist circumference measurements, triglycerides. Those are a few of the numbers. It's about feeling great and actually getting to a healthy height to weight ratio, healthy BMI, healthy body fat percentage. Because it doesn't make sense, as I said before, that your numbers are fine, but you're not feeling good, right? It just doesn't add up. In the next phase, in the optimization phase, we're going to work on strength. Now, strength that's specific to longevity. In the metabolic health phase, you are working on strength. But as you think about aging, going after 40, after 50, your parameters for strength or what you do for strength changes a bit. You focus more on grip strength. That gives you resilience. You focus on exercises like the dead hang, the farmer's carry. We focus on increasing lean muscle mass in the limbs because that plays a part in longevity, muscle mass. Then the other part of strength is aerobic fitness, zone 2 cardiovascular training, improve your cardiometabolic function. And we're talking about increasing your VO2 max, your capacity, how much work you can do for a sustained period of time. Then we take a deeper look into cognitive health. Now, all the way through this continuum, we are already optimizing for cognitive health. In the metabolic health phase, you're lowering your blood glucose, you're lowering your inflammation, right? In the strength phase, you're starting to train a little harder. You produce lactate. Lactate goes to the brain. Lactate now produces what is called BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, that acts as fertilizers for the neurons, improves short-term memory, long-term memory, and improves cognition. Imagine having all three. You'll get more purpose. This is where people get their second wind, their second careers. They travel, they dance at their grandkids' weddings. You have so much more life and vitality. You're the one that people want to invite out because you're the life, right? And this gives you more purpose-driven, meaningful, social, and personal connections. Now, adults over 40 need a different framework. You could remember when you were 20, 25, you ate and drank freely, and you didn't gain a single pound. Now you look at a recipe on Instagram, you step on the scale, and you can't button your pants, right? There are a lot of factors that influence it. I just put the four more important ones that we see in our practice. Insulin resistance, number one. Now, what is insulin resistance? Let me make it simple for you to understand. Let's say you eat and your body dumps 2 buckets of glucose in your bloodstream. That's a lot, right? You would need, let's say you need a bucket of insulin to remove the glucose and put it into storage, because that's what insulin does. It moves excess energy into storage. Now, as you get older and you start developing insulin resistance, you might need a bucket and a half to move the same 2 buckets of glucose. As it becomes worse, you need 2 buckets of insulin, 2.5 buckets of insulin. So you're still moving the amount of sugar, but now your body is producing more insulin to get the job done. That's insulin resistance in a nutshell, to make it easier to understand. As your body produces insulin, it glycates, it browns your tissue, it ages you, wrinkles your skin. Less resilience to stress, inflammation. Perimenopause, you're a woman over 40, and it's a big hot topic right now. Your hormone levels start fluctuating. And guys, we go through changes too, okay? Now muscle mass starts declining. Now, muscle has a key function here, because what muscle does, it's the best disposal of sugar in the bloodstream. More muscle removes the sugar faster. But as you start losing muscle as you age, sarcopenia, your metabolic engine starts slowing down. Now you can't consume as much carbs as you did before. You become weaker, your daily caloric burn starts going down. Introducing peptides. Now, what are they? Now, look at this picture. On my left, there's a switch, and there's a living room. On my right, there's a breaker. Let's just say you are ready to go to bed, and you're in your living room and you want to turn the lights off. This switch controls that light. On the other side, if you use the breaker, that breaker will shut off the lights, but it will also shut off the lights in the entire house. Peptides are like that light switch. One signal, one outcome. That breaker is like a steroid hormone like testosterone. It shuts off the light, but it affects the system globally. Peptides are not new. They're new to some of us, or they became more popular. But if you know about insulin, this was discovered in 1921. Glucagon was discovered in 1923, and GHKCU in 1973. So peptides have been around for a long time, but now it's becoming more mainstream. We're able to isolate different chains for different specific functions. Now, what can peptides do? Well, as in the previous slide, they provide a signal. They signal recovery, they signal performance, they signal energy, they signal appetite suppression, repair. Now, what they can support? Here's what they can't do. They're not magic bullets. They can't replace sleep. They can't replace a good diet. They can't replace exercise. Now, you're wondering so far, where do you start? Hopefully, the information is enough so I'm not overwhelming you, or I hope I'm not moving too fast. Okay, so this is what we call the Human Optimization Project. I coined it this term because you want to focus on optimal outcomes, not ranges like your doctor's report. You want to optimize at every level. Now, that's easier said than done. But if you test and you follow the framework and you really you put more attention into it, you're going to be really surprised of what you're going to get out. Now, the first phase, there's some more, in our optimization project is called a GLP-1 powered weight loss. This phase is for people, obviously, who need to lose weight. Because if you remember the longevity continuum, the first part is metabolic health. So in this phase, we call it stabilize and protect. Why stabilize and protect? Well, we want to control glucose levels. We want to stabilize it. We want to stabilize hunger signals. We want to protect muscle mass. And if you're wondering if it's true, GLP-1 can remove lean tissue. But I'm going to show you now what we could do to minimize muscle loss. Now, important caveat. As an ex-competitive bodybuilder who trained dozens of bodybuilders, every diet that requires a caloric deficit and some type of caloric expenditure output training, you are going to lose a little bit of muscle. The goal here is to protect the amount of muscle you're going to lose. And here's how you're going to do it. We start with the first pillar, nutrition. Protein is very important. There are two ways to protect your muscle mass. Adequate protein intake is one. Your target here would be 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. Let me break that up. Let me make that easier to understand. If you're $160 and your goal is to get to 140, you need 140 grams of protein. Protein tells the body to keep the muscle on you. Number two, supplementation. Now, a lot more people are getting into supplementation, but there's a lot of hesitation as well. Just think about this for a second. I read this interesting research paper. They compared the nutrient densities in oranges. One was found in 1970, and one was found sometime in the year 2000 something. It's 30 years later. What they found was the micronutrient content was 20 times less in the orange from the 2000s. But the orange in the 2000s, 2005 or something, had more sugar. You're going to be eating less, so you can become micronutrient deficient. And even if you're eating a full regular diet, you might still be. So supplementation to fill the gaps to help your body perform optimally is very important here. Next, we have hydration. GLP-1 slows down the food as it travels through the gut. You need to ensure that what goes in comes out because constipation stalls fat loss. Sufficient hydration, high quality hydration ensures that we don't run into these problems. You guys with me? All right, let's move. Next pillar, exercise. Strength training is a non-negotiable. It's a non-negotiable, full stop. If you are thinking about taking a GLP-1 and you are not currently strength training, here's the advice I will give my mom. Start with a strength training program first before taking the drug. Get your body prepped and ready for the intensity that you need. You're going to need to work out at least 3 times weekly with an 85% exercise intensity. What does 85% mean? It's not the blue dumbbells that sit next to your sofa while you binge watch Netflix. It's a weight you cannot move for more than 10 reps, 8 to 10 reps. Like you're going to be pushing your body hard. This is the second way that the body keeps the muscle mass on. Sufficient protein intake and high intensity training. You're going to utilize total body workouts that incorporate the legs, the back, the shoulders, the arms, right? This also signals the body to keep the muscle on. Next, we go into the peptide support pillar. Let's break down what a GLP-1 is. I know that I'm speaking to a well-informed audience, but let me make it easier to understand. GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide, it works in the lower intestine, right? It binds to the L cells. Well, it works for the L cells. What it does, it simply slows down motility. So it makes you feel fuller for a longer period of time. So you eat less. GLP-1 plus GIP, that's tirzepatide. GIP, glucose-dependent insulinogenic peptide, works higher up in the intestine. What that does, it prompts the body to release insulin in response to carbohydrate intake. This is what is called a dual agonist. 3, this triple agonist is what's called retatrutide. Let's miss that up. Glucagon is added. Now, if you know what glucagon is, it's the opposite to insulin. Insulin is the hormone of storage. Glucagon, we could call it the hormone of expenditure in this aspect. So what the glucagon does in a low caloric state, hypo, which you are going to be in, it prompts the body to release energy. And the release energy comes from the fat cells. So this triple agonist is touted to be the best at protecting lean muscle mass. Take notes. And then we have the NAD and MOTS-c. What are those? NAD stands for nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide. And what that does, if somebody is presenting with low energy, either prior to the GLP-1 journey or during, we will then recommend the use of NAD. It prompts ATP synthase to produce more ATP in the cell. ATP is the energy currency of the cell. NAD is not a peptide. MOTS is. MOTS is a mitochondrial peptide, which does one thing that I think is very important to longevity. It helps the cell repair from oxidative stress. Guys, oxidative stress is like at root cause for inflammation, for cortisol. And what it does, what the mitochondria does, the mitochondria has to produce energy and has to clean itself, has to detoxify. These two combined works like a charm. Next, pillar 4, lifestyle. If you don't get this pillar right, all your strategies and tactics are just going to fall flat. The lifestyle pillar makes the results stick, right? Sleep and recovery. You can't expect to build and have better energy and better vitality if you're not sleeping and having good quality sleep. Your muscles and your body won't recover. Movement. You are not going to be using a GLP-1 forever. You are going to get off of it, and then you're going to get back into eating regularly, smarter. And movement helps when you start eating more food. It helps to dispose of glucose in the bloodstream. A lot of glucose in the bloodstream is probably why we've gained weight in the first place. Stress reduction. If you're a working mom or working dad, you got kids, you run a business, you need to have stress techniques because one of the biggest things that is related to binge eating is being stressed. So if we can know when stress is coming on and we have techniques to reduce that stress, we could control we could control our physiology better, right? Now, this comes with moderate side effects. Nausea, 1 in 2 people experience that. Constipation, 1 in 10. Vomiting, 1 in 10. And diarrhea, 1 in 4. Nausea, constipation, and vomiting, they all linked to the food being digested slowly. Here's a simple fix. Here's what we can do for that. If we chew our food thoroughly, we prioritize mechanical digestion. So now chemical digestion works better, right? More serious side effects. Pancreatitis, 1 in 1,000. And gallbladder issues, 1 in 300. Now, you've been successful. You've lost the weight. Your energy is up. Your pants don't fit anymore. You start dressing differently. You're loving your results. Now what? This is where the anxiety steps in. For most people who have struggled to lose weight, the last thing you want to do is to regain that weight. They don't know what to do next, how to eat. And they start asking, would I have to keep taking this meds forever? That's an important question. And they fear of the weight rebound. They do not want to go back to where they were before. I wouldn't, right? And this is where we come into the Human Optimization Project. This is phase 2 of the program, phase 2 of how we teach it, okay? The goal here is to help you live stronger, look younger, and feel unstoppable. Sounds good. All right, I'm going to start with some stats right here. This is based on the CDC. Awesome. So if we look at the average US lifespan, men 75.8, let's call it 76, women 81. Here's the interesting numbers. Health span, both at 64. Women, you outlive men. So men can have 12 years of decline, women 14. But check this out. If you lead a healthy lifestyle after the age of 50, guys, men, you can add another 37 years to your life. That's 87 years old. Women, 43. They'll be 93 years old. That's that's awesome. That's so many more adventures, grandkids, great grandkids. That's so and the thing that gives me hope on this slide and should give you hope too is look at the age, 50. It's not too late to start. It's not too late to start right now, right? Potential difference in capacity and vitality plus 14 years. That's a big deal. I'm excited about this. This gives me hope. Now, we're going to start with deeper, more meaningful data. And this slide shows two 45-year-old guys. And two 45-year-old men can live in two different bodies. One can have a biological age of 35, and one can feel like he's 60. So what we measure, we have four main parameters. Everything else is a lot of other data. But we look at biological age versus chronological age. And there's epigenetic tests that breaks this down and gives you really great numbers to illustrate this, right? And that shows overall organ system aging. So there are 11 organ systems, and it gives you a bit of a speedometer reading on each of the age, the biological age of the organ systems. This data allows you to focus on stuff that you need to optimize. And a lot of times we do stuff we know it's good for our health, but if we don't pull the hood and look at the blind spots and see what's under there, then we might be missing something that we should be doing. Might need to reroute our attention differently, right? What you don't know can kill you. The Dunedin score. This was an algorithm developed in New Zealand, Harvard, Yale. And what this shows, this is also a very hopeful score. This is a 3-month snapshot on epigenetics. And what is epigenetics, right? It's just basically how your genes are expressed. So your height, your eye color, your hair color, you can't change that. That's coded. But your epigenetics, how the other genes are expressed, strength, muscle mass, obesity, VO2 max. This gives you a 3-month snapshot. And what's cool about this is if you've ever been to your doctor's office, well, you've been to your doctor's office and you go in for your physical, and he says to you, well, I don't want you eating this amount of time before you get here. Why? Because that will change the data he receives when he pulls your blood. That's how fast your epigenetics change. So if you take your test and you get a bad score and you're prompted to work on these 5 things, in 3 months' time, you retest, you could optimize that. I've seen it. I've done it. All right. Next, we have the Grim Age score. That basically is chronic disease risk. Next, telomere length. Now, I think I just saw, oh, perfect. Hope you can see the shoelace. This shoelace has a cap. If I were to remove this cap, the shoelace frays. And then you can't do anything with the shoelace because it can't get into the eyelet without getting caught. So this cap protects the lace. Your DNA has caps on it, just like this. The longer the cap is directly correlated to a longer lifespan. As the cap shortens, you run the risk of damaging your DNA. So we want to ensure we know what our telomere length is like and what we can do to keep it, to support it. Next, the optimized phase. Your nutrition is based on your goals and your data. we're no longer looking to lose weight, but your nutrition here is based on optimization, more energy, and your strength and conditioning goals is performance-based nutrition. So that might look like high protein, low carb, moderate fats. It'll change from person to person. Veggies, high antioxidant fruits, and again, supplementation to fill the nutrition gaps. Guys with me? Solid. Next, strength and conditioning is a non-negotiable. Guys, exercise is one of the biggest components, one of the biggest movers on your road to longevity. Like if you don't do anything else, you need to exercise. All right? Minimum 5 times weekly. Research shows a little less. But hear me out. There are 7 days in the week. If something means a lot to you, you are going to give it way more than 50% of your time. All right? Strength training here is going to be a little more focused on grip strength, farmer's carry. They help judge the strength of the connective tissue and your ability to carry heavy loads as you get older. Right? Zone 2 cardiovascular training, just to keep things moving, is very important to create that strong, stable aerobic base. And then you have specific focus on VO2 max. This increases your lung capacity, how much you could do with a longer sustained effort. If you see someone that could run a 6-minute mile, you know that they're in the top 85 percentile for VO2 max, right? Flexibility and mobility. It does not make sense. You have a body that looks good and you could run like a horse and you can't bend down without pulling your back or your hamstrings are tight. You can't get off the floor without, looking strange. Lifestyle, sleep and stress reduction techniques. At this stage in your life, 45, 50, you're building businesses. You're at the peak of your career. You're probably starting a second career. You have a lot of moving parts. You're probably taking care of a family. For the moms out there, your stress levels are going to be a little higher. And then some days it's going to be super high. Again, having techniques to reduce your stress helps well here. You can't replace sleep. You need 7 to 9 hours of high quality sleep, uninterrupted sleep. That's it. There's a rare genetic SNP that allows people, I think, to perform optimally with 6 hours. I can't remember it exactly. Sauna and cold therapy. Sauna helps with the production of heat shock proteins, which folds proteins. Misfolded proteins, if not removed from the system, can cause plaque in the form of beta amyloids, goes to the brain. It's one of the reasons that might lead to dementia. Red light, PEMF, and grounding. Hobbies and self-development. Like you need an avenue to express yourself, to be playful. And you also need to be challenging your cognition. You need to be aiming for something. You need to have purpose. Now, as we go forward, let's speak about some of the peptides that you will use in this phase. I've categorized them in the best way possible, so it's easier for you to grasp. So peptides that support energy. Again, we go to NAD, MOTSI. peptides that support fat loss. We have AOD 9604. This is a fragment of human growth hormone that was specifically isolated to target subcutaneous fat. Lipo B and lipo C. Lipo B and lipo C are not peptides. They're what is considered mixed, methionine, inositol, choline. The B on lipo B adds B vitamins. The C on lipo C is carnitine. Carnitine helps transport fatty acids to the mitochondria to be burned as energy. Lipo B and lipo C are the nutrients that support the liver to aid in lipolysis, fat burning. Peptides that support healing. Here we have BPC 157, TB 500. Now let's go back because I want to explain that a little bit. Okay, BPC 157, body protection compound. It works specifically for the joints, the cartilage. It also works on healing the gut. Will also lower or support the lowering of inflammation. TB 500 acts more on the muscle tissue. Usually, both peptides are combined in one shot. Peptides that aid recovery. Semarelin. This has been blowing up on Instagram. What is it? It's a growth hormone analog. It helps the body produce growth hormone while you sleep. Now, it has a very short half-life, so it doesn't last long in the body. But I recommend this more because it more naturally, closely mimics growth hormone production. Then we have ipamorelin. This is a growth hormone secretagogue. What it does, it sends a signal to the HPA axis and tells the body to produce more growth hormone. Tesamorelin, this is another growth hormone analog. And interestingly, this was used in the clinical setting to help HIV patients reduce visceral fat. Will help regular people, HIV negative people as well. And visceral fat is that dangerous fat that forms around the organs. And now for the ladies, I guess for the guys too, peptides that support beauty. Here we have semarelin. And this could be semarelin, it could be ipamorelin, it could be tesamorelin. Any peptide that prompts growth hormone secretion would rejuvenate and would affect all cells. Then we have GHKCU. This is a copper peptide. It is found in saliva, plasma, hair, skin, and it's specifically designed to help remodel skin and soft tissue. Peptides that support brain health. Here we have a combination of Silanc and Cimax. Silanc works on the limbic system, and this will help calm anxiety. Cimax works on the hippocampus. That's the memory center of the brain. Together, they work on giving you a calm, more focused thinking patterns, thought patterns. And then we have semarelin making it here as well. Any peptide that helps stimulate growth hormone is going to support the entire system. Now we have GLP-1. GLP-1 makes it here. And I think that the patent on GLP-1 is, they're probably looking to expand that for like another 45 years. And the fact is that they're realizing that it decreases neuroinflammation, inflammation in the brain. So now more signals and nutrients, and the brain works better So GLP-1 helps calm the brain down. What do we do after we deploy various peptides? Well, let me back up a little. You are not going to use every single thing at once. That's not how this works. You're not going to be taking 5 or 6 peptides at the same time. That's a game that they want you to play. I have, and I would like my clients, and I coach myself like this too. I take care of myself like this. We use what we need at any point in time. We work on a couple markers. The one that needs support the most, we bump it up, we retest, and we go again. Your body, you don't want a confused body. Remember, a peptide is a signal, and signals, let's say you're in New York and you're leaving, you're going on the 80, you're going to Jersey. I think that's the 80, right? And you listen to your favorite radio station, and all of a sudden you go out of range. You start hearing white noise, it's broken up. Peptides are signals, and we need to optimize the system so the signal is not attenuated, the signal is received loud and clear. So we need to ensure that we're not overcomplicating things and allowing the right signals to reach the right destinations to create the right result, right? When we retest, we look at everything, lifestyle factors. Peptides are not magic bullets. And sometimes the most advanced things you could do is to execute the basics consistently. Exercise, nutrition, and reevaluate your peptide support to see if you're making progress in the right direction and iterate and fix as we need to. Am I moving too fast? So, this brings me to the end. Weight loss isn't the destination. It's the doorway to a body and brain that supports the life you work hard to build. Now we're gonna open up for some Q&A. Is anybody sleeping so far?
No, nobody's sleeping.
All
I'm
right.
gonna I'm gonna ask people to unmute. I got a lot out of that presentation. There's a lot of questions that I have basically because I've never used a peptide. I've used some morley. Am I pronouncing that right?
Mm-hmm.
When I was like 40 with testosterone, um, at the same time, and it did help me with energy, and I felt definitely a lot better. Now that I'm 56, I'm kind of reinvestigating about going on it again. Um, More so the testosterone, but now that there's peptides, one of the things that you were explaining was, and I forget which of I think it was it Met Dash C, and what was the other one? Like if you
Part
took
C and NAD, right?
MOTS and NAD. Like I notice, sometimes I get confused for me, after a workout, my recovery, like I'm like exhausted. And I'm wondering, for me, I was doing like I think we talked, I was doing enclomyphene, but that made me feel a little weird, so that's why I'm gonna retest my hormones and see where they're at and maybe start something with with testosterone. But I'm wondering, what kind of tests do you give, or what tests are out there that would kind of give you an indication that maybe um, you're not processing or metabolically, like through like showing that maybe you possibly have a mitochondria dysfunction where you're not actually using ATP in a way that you should be, and therefore you would want to use those peptides maybe to kind of kickstart that. And is that normal that as you get older, maybe your mitochondria don't function as well as they used to.
100%. So, MOTS-C, that stands for mitochondrial open framing of the 12S RNA-C. What the hell does that mean? How do I remember that? But what I do know about that, what's stuck in my mind, what sticks in my mind, is the fact that it helps the cell repair from oxidative stress. And let me paint this picture for you, right? Hopefully this analogy lands. If I'm picture busy restaurant, there's a kitchen, there's a cook, and they're bumping out orders. The staff moves the dishes that coming in from the customers and gets it all washed up. If the dishes don't get moved, then there's less room to prepare the meals. So the service becomes inefficient, right? So the meals can't get out on time. And think about that in the aspect of your mitochondria. If the mitochondria's job is to produce energy, then if the mitochondria is burdened and damaged, it will become less efficient at doing so. So the combination of NAD and MOTS-C in particular, helps the mitochondria, again, I say it's 100 times, recover from oxidative stress. So oxidative stress simply is the lack of antioxidants in relation to oxidants. And that starts damaging the mitochondria. So after a while, you could feed the mitochondria NAD, you could take ketones, you could boost your test. But if the mitochondria is not regenerating, mitochondrial biogenesis, you're going to end up with that same low energy issue. In terms of testing, I am not sure. What I do know though, that if you do there's a company called Pinot, and they do a test and they measure you run and they measure your oxygen and carbon dioxide, and they use this algorithm that measures if you are burning fat or glycogen during your training session. And that might be a really good insight on how you could tailor your diet and your peptide support to help support your energy. But what I would do if I were you, and what worked for me, when I started using NAD, I lowered my carbohydrate intake significantly. And it worked like gangbusters because you can't overload the mitochondria with fuel and expect NAD to do its job properly. You had to create room.
So with the NAD, was that a powder that you took? Like what specific NAD did you take?
Everything I spoke about today, I probably left out some details, are subcutaneous injections. Now, they are powdered forms, but what happens is that when you ingest peptides in pills, or peptides are so very delicate, they're 2 to 50 amino acids in length. When exposed to the hydrochloric acid in the stomach, they get dismantled. So they can't actually go through the gut to do the thing that they were set out to do, they were taken to do in the first place. So I always go sub-Q. Now, there are companies and the technology is getting better where the peptides are, they put a bit of a hydrochloric acid, like a coating on it to bypass the stomach acid. But then that leaves the question, some people may have stronger HCl levels. Gastric emptying varies from person to person. So you don't know how long this is going to sit in the stomach and how long it's going to be exposed to the acid. Hope I'm not too long-winded with my answer.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I mean, the program that the human optimization project that you put someone through, um, where, I mean, is this something like, can you tell us like, is this something that could be do online, or is it something that you have to like go to your place and do it in person?
100% online or in person. I just have people, New York, New Jersey, California doing this thing. We provide all the coaching, all the support, and all the parameters. I think our strength lies with not only the real life experience we have, but also with the accountability, how we check in and how we follow up, and the speed at which we do that.
Right.
Because once you get into a coaching business, whether it's finance, fitness, you're essentially becoming an accountability coach. People get busy, man. Stuff happens. So you need to ensure to get the best results for your program because we coach because we love it. So I want to ensure that you do what we said we were going to do. So that's to answer your question. Yes, it's online and in person. Doesn't make a difference. But what makes it very effective is how we follow up and we keep track of you.
Right. I mean, the important thing is if somebody is doing it online, they really need to, I guess, do the exercises that you're saying. Because if you're saying you have to go, you should be going to the gym 5 times a week. I would think one of the requirements is it required that somebody needs to belong to a gym, or do you provide in-home things that they could do?
That's a good question. There is there's so much you could do with body weight. And you gotta think if someone hasn't exercised and they're a bit overweight, most of the times all the body weight exercises may sometimes it may or may not be appropriate or applicable based on where they are starting structurally, technique wise. So in the if we're looking to save lean muscle mass, we gotta load the body. So for instance, if someone hasn't exercised and they want to do a GLP-1 program, they could start at home doing body weight training. But eventually, as the body adapts, they got to get more and heavier equipment. So to answer your question, if you have a equipped home gym, which is basically a rack, a barbell, and some dumbbells and a bench, you could get it done. That's it. You don't need a lot of special equipment. But if you don't have that, tubing and dumbbells would work. But while you're taking weight loss peptide, it's not going to save your muscle mass.
Is anybody here who's left and want to have a question, comment, concern? Forrest, Donna, Christy. I can't even pronounce that name. I apologize. Svatoslav. I botched that up. I apologize. Svai. Where can they find you, Jason?
You could find me at www.bodyimage.health. It's a newer website. It's basically a landing page, but we're building it out as we speak. So you could get there, you could submit a form. I'll have your information, and then we could have a conversation from there.
Bodyimage.health.
Correct.
I'll put that in the chat if anybody's interested. Any last words, comments from you, Jason, before I guess we wrap it up if no one else has any questions?
Well, I would say that to close, in closing, most people jump on the longevity and the health thing too late. Because if you think, and as the stats show, at 50 years old, you can extend your lifespan. But 50 years old is not middle age. You don't live into 100. Middle age is around about 38 to 40. So we want to catch this health and optimization on the up, not on the down, right? So if you haven't, start right now. It's better than not starting at all. But if you are doing your thing, shoot, aim for the stars. Just go a little higher. Project yourself further into the future. Because you don't want to wait on that. Most of the times, like you your health is worth more than you know your health is valuable. And we don't really feel like that. We don't act like that until you lose it. Right? You have 100 problems when you're healthy, but when you're sick, you only have one.
That's the truth.
So get on it, people.
Yeah, all right. You heard it from Jason. Get on it, people. And if you want to reach out to Jason, I put the website in the chat. Jason, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight and introducing us to the world of peptides. And this is recorded, so I will definitely be providing you the recording once I, get it downloaded into my Google Drive. I'll provide the link. And for the
Thank
people
you.
who signed up for it and registered who couldn't make it, I will make sure that they get it. And hopefully you'll get a few clients out of this, okay?
All right. Thank you, buddy.
All right, everybody. Have a great night and thanks for
All
coming.
right. Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.